Okay, part 2 on this. It's a new day. Took another look at it, and there's this black plastic piece that runs all along the front, and 2 screws on one side, 2 screws on the other, and then there's 1 screw down here, and then 2 behind the circuit board. And I believe now I should be able to move this forward and then pull this mechanism forward and then up and out. So I'll give this a shot. Also, before lifting up, there's a set of wires that are held into this clip. It's a little hard to see here. This clip is on the bottom of the loading assembly. So before pulling up, I need to remove these wires from there, and then it should just come up. Success! Though I still don't like this VCR. Looks like it's got a problem with plastic fatiguing and breaking, and it has been absolutely crammed full of everything. So getting this all back in nicely with all the wiring fitting is going to be quite a challenge. So hopefully this video and the pictures I'm taking will be enough to guide me in putting this back together. But for now, I'm going to take a look at this loading mechanism and see if I can identify why the cartridge isn't going down all the way. Hopefully it's not another damaged gear. Alright, here's my plan. For this little rod, this rod that has the gears on either end, if you notice, I've started filing it down to make the ends a little bit thinner in diameter. Just slightly. And if you notice, it's tapered. So each end has a taper, I guess with the idea that you just friction fit these gears on either end. But over time, the pressure from the metal and then the plastic shrinking, I guess as it ages, causes the gears to crack and fall off. So I'm going to file this down so that it's a little bit loose, but more just if I squeeze the gear tight with my finger, I should be able to move it up and down on the end with no problem. Then I'm going to just put a little dab of glue to hold this gear on once I glue it together. So it'll still be fine, but I won't have to worry about pressure on these gears anymore. Because otherwise, if I just glue that gear back together and stick it on here, it's going to put space between the teeth where the crack is, or if I glue the gear tight and then put it on here, it's just going to crack again. So I'm going to file these ends down and put the gears on. I've lubed up this entire assembly and I've been running it back and forth by itself. It's just got a little 12-volt motor so I can move it up and down, or I can manually move it. And I've just been lubing every section. It'll go down all the way now, move up and down. So I'm going to make sure there's no spots, especially on this side, because this is the side that transfers the power with the gears. I don't want to put a lot of pressure or torque on them. So I'll make sure that this moves nice and freely with it's all greased up nicely. And then I'm going to put these gears in, glue them in, and we'll see how it goes. And as far as this is concerned, I'm just going to scuff up this idler tire for now, see if I can get a bit of bite on it. I mean, if I can actually get this thing to play, then I might source a better tire. But this might be an exercise in futility if there's other problems. I still haven't been able to test to see if I even get a picture from any of the electronics here. So first step, get the loading working, load a tape, see what happens. I think this loading cartridge is bent. So this might have been why the other side was having trouble going down. It's got a bit of a twist to it. So if I hold it here, and I won't be able to do this with one hand, but if I tighten it and I get a caliper and I measure here, there, and then the other two here, they all are exactly 6.42 or 6.43 millimeters. So if I hold it here, it's perfectly spaced. So nothing in this outer shell is out of whack. But the twist wants to push it forward here. So I don't know which component. It's probably this sort of gray bracket because it goes in and goes down. So at this point I might just try and manually twist it with my hand and make it work. But this would definitely cause a loading problem because it's just going to twist and torque in here. It needs to ride smoothly and evenly. Alright, forget what I said earlier. I think this springiness, let me try and pull this into the frame a little better. I think the springiness here is actually on purpose. It shouldn't go past this little stop here. So I have the multimeter hooked up to the fully ejected switch. Alright, so if I start to eject it, I slide along here. Right there. That's where it's ejected. And on this side, it's nice and snug, it's spaced. Yeah, shut that off. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this. It's not bent like I thought. I think I can go ahead and put these gears back in and glue them back together. Okay, gear 1 is set up and ready. So I cleared all the epoxy out of the center and the notch on the gear, and I just have it held in place with a little bit of pressure here, an elastic band. So I'm going to let this one fully cure and dry, and if I can find more tools to put pressure on the second one, I'd like to have them both at the same time. So yeah, next time I'm recording, I should have these gears set and installed inside here, and I can start putting this back together. Hopefully it's not so long that I forget how to put this back together, because I already kind of forget how to put this back together. So while I'm waiting for those gears to cure and set up, I kind of want to play with the tuner on this. I was reading some of the comments, and both VCR King and the Betamax Man have mentioned that this, at least in part, is a Sony. And I'm starting to agree. I'm not familiar with Sony's mechanisms here, but the more I look at this tuner, this is very familiar to the sort of digital tuners of the early Sony Betamax VCRs. And I remember having an early 80s Sony TV, and it had push button 2 to 13 controls, but they were digitally set with a single tuner and sort of the preset on-off controls, and they would flash and everything similar to this. So yeah, this is a Sony, and also a Sanyo that did something and made this tiny VCR child. But yeah, I have it. Let's power it on precariously. So I have this state-of-the-art 75 ohm to 300 ohm adapter hooked up, and I have the video output hooked up to my TV, and we can see my in-house cable. And what I did is I tuned in. This is going to be real fun changing channels here. I tuned in, so here's all set them all back to the normal numbers, and then I tuned in my UHF channels. My security channel,
Martian Nights,
the other channel,
ready to beat some ass.
I'm in.
IWD,
and the weather channel. So the tuner works. Things in here seem to be working. I'm half tempted to short out the tape sensor on this connector and just push a tape in here and see if it plays it. But I kind of want to finish this anyway, just as a exercise. So if I want to change this channel, so right now it's tuned into channel 24 or 22. I can turn the fine tuning off, And you can see when I turn it off, the tuning goes off just a little bit. So if I want to, well, let's pick a different channel here. Let's mess with channel 2. Turn the sound down. So if I want to change channel 2 and I want to make it, say, a different number, so I put it in preset mode. And as soon as I put it in preset mode, instead of going to whatever tuning value is digitally stored, it'll immediately go to wherever this is set. So as soon as I turn preset on, it's whatever I last tuned, which in this case is channel 22. So I can turn preset on, and whenever you're tuning these, you want to turn AFT off, and I can tune through the channels. So I can set it to, say, channel 20. And all of this is on UHF. I could go to there's nothing in the house on VHF. And when I'm ready to store it, see, I've just tuned it in, but as soon as I turn it off, it'll go back to what it was set to before. So when I'm ready to store it, I hit memory. And now it's been stored in this channel. So when I turn preset off, it's still stored in there. But wait, I want to go further. I want to change the number as well. So I can cycle through the 10s all the way up to 9. It also has U, I guess, for UHF preset, and C for cable preset. And I can change the other number there. And there we go. Channel's programmed. And I think, and for 1984, this is pretty impressive. You have 14 to 83 for UHF. VHF high, of course, has channel 7 to 13, but it goes from A to I and J to W for the cable channels. So I think, if I remember right, I think that's up to like channel 36 or something on cable, which is pretty impressive for a VCR of this age. Like if you look at Panasonic VCRs of around the same era, you'd be lucky to get any cable channels tuned in on this little manual tuner thing. So yeah, now I have it too. I'll turn AFT back on. And now I have TV. So at the very least, the tuner works. I don't really have any older Sanyo remotes. I could probably grab a newer one and see if it does anything. I mean, if they're anything like Toshiba, use the same remote code for decades. My Toshiba Betamax VCR remote from 1984 worked on a Toshiba VHS VCR that I had that was a Samsung built unit from around 2001. So they really didn't change the remote codes for ages.
Blow out the candles and make a wish, put a smile on, cause it's your birthday, bitch. Go robot.